Today, let's make a recipe of a soup. A soup which is wonderful, warm, and absolutely comforting. The name you may ask? Red kidney bean soup or Rajma soup. Let's begin. Well, kidney beans, as we all know, is known as Rajma. Rajma is also known as Rajma or Lal Lobia. There's a beauty to this ingredient because the ingredient and the name of the dish both happen to be Rajma. Isn't that wonderful? This is something which is extremely loaded with proteins. It's high in magnesium, iron, fiber, and it's beautiful. Let's begin first things first by cooking the Rajma. And to this, let's add in water. A teaspoon of salt. Let's cover this and allow this to cook under pressure for 20 minutes on low flame. Let's have a quick check. Well, it's extremely important for the kidney beans to be perfectly cooked. And when I say perfectly cooked, they literally need to be press tender or pinch tender or fork tender. Now you can cook this for a couple of minutes extra, and that's the most ideal way of cooking this. Do not add in things like soda bicarbonate at any given point in time, because that will also just add in some chemicals in your body. As simple as that. Cooking the Rajma is also important. It has to be perfectly done. Otherwise, that would also lead to indigestion or indigestion, however you pronounce it. The next step is to pulverize this or to make this into an absolute fine, smooth paste, because that way it'll naturally become a cream of Rajma soup and you will not have to add in any additional dairy or cream. Well, I am adding butter in this recipe while cooking. You can avoid it absolutely and make this recipe vegan, and in that case, you'll have to begin with olive oil. But for now, let's grind this. Our Rajma is cooked and pulverized well. The next step is beginning with the making of the soup. Let's begin with a knob of butter. Let's begin with finely chopped garlic cloves. To this, let's add in onions, carrots, and celery, finely chopped. Well, these three ingredients, after the garlic, of course, which is onions, carrots, and celery, happen to be a combination called Mirpoix, Mirepoix, and this is typically in a combination of 2:1:1, and that's the ratio. So 2 parts of onions, 1 part of carrot, and 1 part of celery. Now, this also happens to be one of the fundamental components in countless soups across the globe. For now, red lentil or Rajma soup. Let's start sweating this slightly. You do not need to brown this or discolor this or color this. Once this begins to sweat, it also kind of becomes extremely flavorful. And this is the time to add in the Rajma, which has been blended with water. To this, I'm also adding in fresh tomato juice. Along with this, a quick squeeze of lemon, a couple of basil leaves freshly torn, spinach leaves washed and shredded, and once the spinach goes in, we'll check for salt, because spinach, of course, has its own salt. Let's adjust the salt depending on the seasoning at this point in time, and finally some freshly cracked black pepper. Again, depending on the spice you please. A quick stir, and now we allow this to cook and bubble gloriously to the texture and consistency that you please in your soup. Once you achieve that, of course, the flame. With this, ladies and gentlemen, our kidney bean soup or Rajma soup is done and ready. And like I said earlier, if you can avoid the butter, this also happens to be vegan. And have you noticed by now, this also happens to be gluten-free. Try this recipe amongst most of my recipes that are winter special, and let me know in the comment section what you feel about this recipe in particular. This is me, Varun, signing off. Bye for now.